Hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Laser and today we're going to be talking about my favorite shotgun in the game, and that is the Arca Plasmor. Quite the popular weapon, this one, even though it still has a Riven disposition of 3 out of 5. In any case, my builds, my guides usually take a more new player friendly approach simply because there is a lot of information here that usually kinda gets glanced over and skipped, and I really feel I should cover it. So veterans of the game, please excuse me and bear with me. Let's jump into the Arca Plasmor and see what we got. First and foremost, the capacity, 60 out of 60. You get this one by jumping into actions and installing an Orokin catalyst. Usually these can be found in alerts or invasions, or you can even get one from the daily sortie if you're really lucky. More often than not, however, I kinda spent 20 plat for it, so there you go, not ideal. But in any case, you'll also see the number 4 over here next to the star. That means that this weapon has been formatted 4 times. For this build you won't need that many form. I think 3 will cover it. I got 4 simply because I got a Riven, and we'll cover the Riven a bit later. Next, let's see the stats. Accuracy is 9.1. This is a shotgun, and let me make one thing clear. This is not a pellet shotgun. It is a projectile shotgun, but it has one big ass projectile, and that is it. You don't need to go to 100% status chance like you do with the Tigris Prime, for example. Again, it is one big projectile, so you don't need to worry that much about the status chance. Critical chance is 22%, which is not bad and quite odd, the number 22%. Critical multiplier is not that great, 1.6. The fire rate is 1.10, which again is kind of bad. Magazine capacity is awesome, 10 for a shotgun is pretty good. The reload speed, again, kind of a buzzkill, 2.8 is huge. Riven disposition, like we talked about earlier, 3 out of 5, so that means the Rivens are right smack in the middle. Pretty good, but not overly good. Status chance, a whopping 28%, again, a weird number, 28 with 22. And the trigger, of course, is semi. And you will also notice that this shotgun does by default radiation damage, 600, quite the number. That means that this shotgun will be pretty good against Eidolon, especially, well, at the knees section, because you're not really gonna hit the top part because of the range of the shotgun. Okay, that being said, I want to show you, before we put any mods on, bear with me here, the actual projectile. So this is how the projectile looks. It's a saucer of sorts, an oval shape. You'll also notice that if you hit something, it appears like the saucer explodes outwards. Okay, it expands on contact. It doesn't deal any damage. It is simply a visual effect. And this is the fire rate. I'm mashing my button right now. So as you can see, the fire rate is pretty horrible. And let's reload as well. So you can see it takes a while. And in a combat situation, that is a little bit costly, I gotta say. One final note I will make: the damage is consistent throughout the entire shape of the projectile. So it doesn't matter if you hit them in the middle or at the edges, it will still do the same amount of damage. And now we're ready to add some mods. First and foremost, as per the usual, we're just gonna add flat damage. And for this one is point blank. This is the damage mod for shotguns. One additional note: if you guys have primed versions of any of the mods I recommend, then by all means use your prime versions, though it may require you to format an additional time. So we got our damage, of course, being a shotgun, we're gonna add multi-shot. Multi-shot pretty much in flat damage is what you add on mostly any weapon. In case of our shotgun, it's gonna be Hell's Chamber, and that will give us a whopping 120% multi-shot. And let's remember that multi-shot also boosts our status chance. So we went from 28 to 51% just because of Hell's Chamber. Next, we do have a 22% critical chance, so let's amplify that as well. We're gonna go into a bit of a hybrid build. I have tried both, going for full crit and full status. The hybrid way proved the best in testing and in actual gameplay scenarios. The critical chance mod for shotgun is Blunderbuss, and it will add 90% critical chance, so our critical chance jumps up to 41.8. And since we got a decent critical chance now, why don't we add some critical damage with Ravage, which will add 60% critical damage. This one is not great, I gotta be honest. For this one, ideally you would want the prime version of Ravage, but it goes for like 200-300 plat at the very minimum, so we're just gonna ignore that for now. Good, so we got what I like to call mandatory mods on the shotgun. Next, we should be looking towards amplifying its damage with some elemental damage. We do deal radiation damage, but against Grenier, which are most common and usually kind of like what people like to test against, it's not gonna really do that much. So we're gonna go for a bit of corrosive, and we have two options. We can either go straight for it with Charge Shell, which will provide electricity, and of course, in order to get to get corrosive, we're gonna have to combine electricity with a little bit of toxin, and contagious spread is the 90% toxin mod. So these are 90-90 mods, and I said you have a bit of an option. You can go for the 90 mods, which provide more damage. We are on 4.5k corrosive. We overcome the base radiation even with the multi-shot. Or you have the option of adding 60-60 mods. There are 4 60-60 mods for shotguns. For Toxin is Toxic Barrage, and as the name suggests, it will add 60% of an element and 60% status chance. And you might be tempted to jump at the chance. Oh my god, yeah, I'm gonna get 100% status. No, you're not. Because of the 28% base status chance, you're only gonna get 99% with all of the mods. But again, I like to stress this out. This is not 1,000 pellets you are firing. You do not need to aim for 100% status chance. It is important on pellet based shotguns to get that 100% status chance so that all of your pellets apply status. This is one big ass projectile. Again, with the multi-shot we put on 2 or 3, it is not important to go overboard with a status, at least not for the Arca Plasmor. That doesn't mean we're gonna ignore it. Very well, we got, for now we're gonna keep the 90-90 mods, and we have made corrosive damage. Let's keep in mind the negatives of the Arca Plasmor. Huge reload and an abysmal fire rate. These are the main negatives to this weapon. Now you can alleviate the reload, with something like Chilling Reload. Chilling Reload will add 40% cold and some reload speed as well. So that is a good idea, definitely. Or you can ignore it and just simply deal with the reload time. Another good option would be Vigilante Armaments. More multi-shot, more damage, and more status at the same time, so it can't be bad. Also, we got that 5% chance to enhance critical hits from primary weapons. Then again, our critical chance is not that high, is it? It's only 41.8, and our fire rate is a bit abysmal, so are we really gonna get a benefit from it? Yes, we will get the benefit from the multi-shot, from the flat multi-shot, the added status chance, and of course the increase in damage. What are we gonna do about that fire rate though? Let's see, what options do we have? Accelerated Blast, this would be awesome if the damn weapon had some puncture, and since it doesn't have puncture, then it would be pointless. We'll only get the 60% fire rate. Other than that, we do have the option of Vigilante Fervor, which will give us 45% fire rate. You can't put Speed Trigger on this one because Speed Trigger is for rifles. For example, bows, Tiburon Prime, that kind of thing. You cannot use that on a shotgun, but you can use Vigilante Fervor, which won't give you 60%. It will give you 45%, but it's for primary weapons. So basically any primary will do, and you can put out Vigilante Fervor to fix the fire rate, definitely. But we're not gonna do that. We're gonna work around this with another cheap solution, and I'll show you about that later. You do need to fix the fire rate. The reload you can work around, but the fire rate simply costs you DPS, so we're not gonna go into that. So we got Vigilante Armaments. If we would put on Vigilante Fervor, we also had like the 10% chance to enhance critical hits. So this is an option. This is not a bad idea, but I got a better one. At least I believe I have a better one. In testing, it proved more efficient. So what we're gonna do is actually further amplify our damage type depending on what we fight. Again, for now we're assuming we're fighting the Grenier, which are heavily armored, so we already built corrosive. What if we further amplify that with a 60-60 mod? Now the 60-60 mod for electricity unfortunately is Shell Shock, and Shell Shock is the most expensive 60-60 mod because it only drops in the mission Elgar on the planet Eris. You got a 5% chance of obtaining this after you complete the objective and also find all of the secret caches, which is why this is about 60, 50, 70 plat off the trade chat. So I don't really like to recommend expensive builds or expensive mods, but this would improve our corrosion damage. As you saw, the corrosion went up to 7.6, so it's definitely not a bad idea. And I'm also on 81% status because of the 60/60 mod. I can take it even further if I so desire. I can also use the 60/60 mod for Toxin, which is a whole lot more accessible and cheap, and it is Toxic Barrage. And now, again, my corrosive jumps and my status chance, but this time you see a much smaller jump in status chance, only about a 6-7%. In testing, and after I ran everything, I found it most efficient not to run 2 additional 60/60 mods to further amplify the damage type you want. For example, in our case, corrosive, but you can make it for blast as well, or whatever you need, depending on, again, who are you fighting. You can even amplify the base radiation if you're going against Eidolon. It doesn't really matter. What I found to be most effective, however, was just to use one 60/60 mod and then the multi-shot. I still get a high status chance of 81.1%, but again, I do have a pretty decent critical chance, so more multi-shot also means more chances to actually crit. And I got a status chance now about an 81%. It is enough. Like this. Let's check out what happens to the damage. And I know this is taking a while, and I'm sorry, but I've been spending the last 24 hours testing this crap, so I gotta explain to you all of the nuances. Alright, let's look at it now. Our radiation is at 3.2, let's round it up, and corrosive is 7.6. If I was to put on Toxic Barrage and 81.1 status chance, my status chance goes to 87.8, so I won what, 6%, something like that. And my radiation is down to 2.5 with corrosive to 7.5. And let's put it again, 7.6, so that's a 100 difference, plus another 600 difference, actually 700 in the radiation. So basically, I'm giving up about 800 damage, if my math wasn't flaky, for about, what, 6% status chance? 7%? About a 7%, not even 6%, 6.6%, 6.7% status chance. It's mostly at this point when another 60/60 mod is not worth it. The gain in status is no longer worth it. The initial one, yes, absolutely, definitely it is worth it because there is a larger jump in status chance. But the second one, I would recommend you go with Vigilante armaments. And that also means that you don't have to have Shell Shock anymore, because if I change these around, the results will be exactly the same. It will further pump up the corrosive, is the same status chance, so you don't need Shell Shock anymore. You can go with Toxic Barrage. And this will be the build, but we still haven't fixed the problem with the fire rate. Again, I think around the reload you can work. If you can't stand the reload, if you can't simply stand it at all, then by all means put chilling reload on. It will definitely help you. But there is a workaround for the reload. We're gonna jump into Mirage. Now what I did is bought this Arcane Tempo, and before you, expensive, no, it was not expensive. These were 5 plat each. I already had 3, I paid like 45 plat. And this one on critical hit, which we will do plenty of to keep this one up at all times, even with that 40 something percent critical chance. We got a 10% chance on every crit for 60% fire rate to shotguns for 8 seconds, plus 1 arcane revive. And this is the solution I found to work around the fire rate. I do not want to mod for fire rate. I feel like I lose too much if I do that. So we're gonna go with Arcane Tempo. And if you want to farm this one, it drops from the Terror list. That's the first Eidolon on Cetus. Fairly easy to farm. I got 3 of these without even trying. So there you go. There's that. If not, pay 5 plat per each. And that's pretty much it. You're gonna need 10. That's 50 plat and you're gonna get that. And that's gonna work with every shotgun. Alright, I'm done talking. I am so sorry this took so long, but in all honesty, I had to explain all the nuances and kind of like my trail of thought. So let's go in and see what we can do. These are level 110 Corrupted Heavy Gunner. Corrupted Heavy Gunner means that it has more hit points and more armor than normal Heavy Gunner. And let's go to town on them. As you can see, from my buff bar, the arcane is working just fine, and we are absolutely wrecking with this. Now, it's not the same type of wrecking as you would do with the Tigris, as you saw. These are AoE shots. We killed all of them in a line. All 4 of them because of the built-in punch through on this weapon. It simply will go through all of the targets. It won't go through walls in its line, in its range. if you guys want to go through walls, you can do that as well. All you gotta do is add a little bit of punch through on this weapon and you will be able to shoot through walls as well. So you see, it's a different wreckage from something like the Tigris Prime. This is a whole lot more AoE, and being completely honest with you, as per the usual, I honestly believe that when it comes to real endgame, super high level enemies, I still would take the Tigris. But that doesn't change the fact that this is my favorite shotgun. It has so much AoE. I can clear entire corridors of enemies coming at me with a couple of shots. And I'm talking about one-shotting level 50s, even 60s with this build with no problem at all. And as you saw there, it kind of burned through those 110s kind of quickly. So this is why this is my favorite shotgun. I'm not calling it the best shotgun in the game. Definitely not. But I think it's a whole lot more versatile. That's just my 2 cents on it. So this is the build. This is what I recommend. Feel free to do your own testing if you don't, if you want to like test out something that I said. Again, past 24 hours, this is all I've been doing. Oh, and re-rolling ribbons, of course, because apparently that is a sport in Warframe. Now I'm going to show you a bit of a different build. I have a Riven. Yes, I have a Riven, and after 63 rerolls, this is the best I could get. Magazine capacity, that's not ideal. Critical chance, damage, and minus status duration. I tried my best to make this into a slash weapon. You can't do it because it simply doesn't have slash as a base status. You can put hunter munitions on, actually. You can do that. And you're gonna crit enough to get some procs out of, you actually do get some procs out of slash procs, but they're so small and feeble, it doesn't really matter and it doesn't really work. Now, the magazine capacity on the Riven is not completely worthless like we discussed earlier. The reload is a pain in the ass and me having to do it less is definitely a good thing because the magazine capacity jumped from 10 to 14. Other than that, the build is pretty much the same as the one I recommended to you. Sure, I have Shell Shock here, but it doesn't really matter if it's Shell Shock or Toxic Barrage. It's pretty much the same thing. And well, that's kind of it. I simply swapped in the Riven instead of Vigilante armaments. Now let's see what it can do with a Riven, which is, well, let's call it half decent. It's not bad. Again, instead of that magazine capacity, some critical damage or some multi-shot would have been really good. And we're gonna test it against the same level enemies. We have the same arcane, so we don't need that fire rate. And let's see if we can actually clear these guys faster with a Riven. Otherwise, that whole farming I've done for that stupid Riven and the 63 rerolls on it, oh yeah, it is faster, thank the Lord, would have been entirely worthless. Don't you guys just hate Rivens sometimes? I mean, they sure beef up a weapon, but god damn it, they sure cost a lot. People selling it for thousands and thousands of plat, and don't get me wrong, I honestly don't believe that you need a Riven for a weapon, but it helps. Again, it depends on what kind of player you are. If you min-max and you want to get the most out of your weapon possible, you're gonna want a Riven. Never paid more than 300 plat for one, I gotta be honest. Alright, let's try it one more time. Indeed, it did clear the enemies faster. That additional critical chance there, that did matter. So at least for that I'm happy, and the additional damage as well. Now let's activate Mirage's abilities. Up until this point we haven't taken into account any Warframe buffs at all. No aura either. You can get a shotgun amp. Let me show you. Shotgun amp. This is an aura which you can use. I do not recommend it simply because it only increases the damage by 18%, which is basically zilch. Yes, you can stack it, but it is not worth it. Now, with Mirage's buffs, the clones, which, look what will happen. You see that? All the clones fire roughly in the same direction, and I also have a 418% damage increase. Let's see how fast we can get rid of these guys this time. Yes, there is a huge difference because of the clones, because of the damage increase there, and of course more crits from the Riven as well. And well, that's pretty much it. I love this thing. I absolutely love this weapon. It's definitely effective. Yes, you can use it in endgame. No, it cannot compare to the Tigris Prime when it comes to single target damage, single target stopping power, simply because the Tigris Prime is a slash weapon. You're gonna do those both barrels and then the target will bleed to death. But for me at least, this one is a whole lot more fun and more versatile. As always, my name has been Lazar. Thank you guys for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you got any feedback for me, by all means, leave it in the comment section down below. I'm off. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.